Rev up your engines. Well, today there's an interesting vehicle. This is a Holden that turned into a Pontiac GTO pace car. Manufactured by Holden in Australia. Then they turned it into a pace car. And it does have a 6-liter LS2 engine in it. And they got bought in 08 because GM was having problems. And they started to auction off some of their cars. Not that they don't have problems today, but they had even more problems then. You remember they went bankrupt. Then they stopped making Hummers and had to reorganize. And they took our taxpayer money, which I think is kind of disgusting, but that's another story. So he bought this at auction and he got a sweet deal on it, and he bought it for only 25 grand with 1,870 miles. And he really is sad because there was an SS. He didn't get that, and it was good. Went for about the same price. And you can imagine what it'd go for today. Prices of those classic cars are going up. Now this, being an Australian car, there's a certain market for it, but this guy doesn't care because he loves this thing. He's got 6,800 miles on it now, so you know the thing is still going to be running pretty good. As you can see inside, it just looks like a Pontiac, but it's got a 6-speed manual transmission. As we look under the hood, a 6-liter V8 engine with only 6,800 miles on it. Now granted, it's dated because it does have that horrible GM ABS system. Now if it was mine, first thing I'd do would be take off that stupid GM ABS system. I can't stand it. I know how to drive, right? They only made 2 of these things. So really, if you had a car like this, you're best to leave it alone, because since there's only 2 of them that were made on the planet, the value goes up over time if you leave it well enough alone. Now, I don't know why Pontiac gave up with their V8 6s and those puny little 4s. That's what ruined the company. I mean, they had horrible transmissions. Those V6 engines blew head gaskets. These things are pretty indestructible. I don't know why. You know, GM, they made so many mistakes back in the day, make your head spin. Try to find one of these is hard enough. Try to find this model. There's only 2 of them on the planet. Now, you can see a lot of it is pretty much stock. It was modified in the United States to be a pace car. The funky lights on the top. Now, a lot of times you can't believe anything about mileage and stuff, but it's a pace car. They don't pace very long. They don't do the race. They just start. So obviously, this is the real mileage that's on the thing. And he didn't even drive it over here to me. As you can see, he used the competition Ram to tow it over here because he doesn't want to put mileage on it. Now, it is a GM product, and this light comes on every once in a while, the engine light. So we're going to do a full scan of this thing to see what's going on. So we'll plug it in under the dash and turn it on. The giant amazing scan tool. Check it out, the electric seats still work. Oh, it's got a 6 CD changer. Key on, so the idiot lights are on. We'll roll the window up so it's quiet inside because my grandson came. He'll be talking. So here we go. We'll do a standalone diagnosis. It's an old 4-passenger car, Pontiac 2-door coupe. It's an old car. It's going to be slow. You got the old handbrake, so you can do tricky maneuvering with this thing too. Not some electronic horse maneuver. They have traction control that you can turn on and off if you want. Now this can do a topology scan, so we're going to do a full scan. See, he doesn't drive it hard because look at this. The average speed is 0.1 miles an hour. Now, let's see what the powertrain code is. Throttle closed position performance. P2119. And here are the possible causes. Faulty circuits to the throttle body. Faulty throttle body. Dirty throttle plate or linkage. Faulty throttle position sensor. Faulty accelerator pedal position sensor. Faulty throttle actuator control motor. Or faulty ECM, the main computer. Man, that's a lot of crap to go through, isn't it? So what we're going to do is we're going to start her up. Engine live data. Okay, throttle position indicated angle. Rev it up a little. You can see there's a miscorrelation between the accelerator pedal position angle and the throttle position actual angle. See if anything else looks squirrely. The fuel trim is way too high. So the accelerator pedal's working fine. It's 0 when it's 0, but the throttle position indicated angle is 7. That is off. And if that's off, that's going to make the fuel trim go squirrely, because it's confused. It's getting wrong information. If it says the throttle is open a certain amount and it isn't open that much, that will screw up the fuel trim. It'll try to trim the fuel because it thinks that the throttle is in a different position than it actually is. Just for giggles, we're going to reset the fuel trim. Go back to live data. Now we can see the fuel trim isn't in the red anymore. It was in the red. Now it's only 17. And we're also going to do a special function here, throttle blade control. Now we can see the desired angle is 7. And the indicator is 7. So now step on the gas. It's sending the information right. It's staying pretty much the same. At least for now, it's working okay. 2 accelerator pedal position sensors. God knows why. Now you can see sensor 1 and sensor 2 are both 0. Now let's step on the gas and see what happens. They're both going. All right. So those are working perfectly fine. The indicated position are all correct. Volt reference on the signals, they're both good, 5 volts. We reset the idle too. Now we're going to take it for a spin. Well, you can tell this thing doesn't have much on it. There it is, 6,801 miles. Take her to a little drag strip, see what she does, see if it's going to trip any codes. I learned that he did replace the throttle body and the pedal sensor, but he didn't reprogram anything, and I've reset everything. So let's see what happens. Came back on. So let's look at the data. Now this time, no, it's not the same code. Now it's P2135. Throttle position sensor 1 to 2 correlation. So it's still a throttle sensor problem that he's got. Now it's a different one. It's the 1-2 correlation. Look at the freeze frame. The throttle position desired angle is 11, but the indicated angle is 21. It is not correlating correctly. The desired angle was different than the indicated angle at low speeds. Now I've got it just sitting here, so I don't have my foot on the gas. The desired's 11 and the actual is 21. But watch what happens when I floor it. Now I'm going to floor it. Now they equilibrate. Now they're the way they're supposed to be. So it's not going to the desired angle when you have your foot off the gas, and that's when it acted up when I was going slow, slowing down. So from all the data, theoretically it can be a lot of things, but pretty much honed down to the wiring or the computer. Now maybe it's the wiring on the computer. He's got a spare computer he's going to try, and when he pulls it apart, if it's green corrosion, you know it's just corrosion on the wiring, which will happen from age. But it is a GM product and their computers aren't all that great, and they do go out, and this thing sits all the time. I'm banking that it's the computer, because when I used my scan tool when I was playing around, I was increasing and decreasing the throttle, and instead of being not correlated, they were correlated perfectly, showing my computer was telling it what to do, and it was doing it. I was bypassing the computer in the car. Either the wiring going to the computer is bad, or the computer itself, because my command was using the wiring from the data port to the throttle. It wasn't going to the computer wire. He'll find out. He's going to try another computer. Now you know what happens when GM cars get old. It's a beautiful car, you know. I mean, I'll tell you what I'd do. Take it all off, all the GM stuff, and I'd either put a couple of 4-barrels on it, or I'd get those new full automatic replacement fuel injection systems that you can adjust. There's a lot of companies that make them. My grandson put one on his Camaro, and they're great because they are self-learning, and you'd hook up to something like this and you'd see how much horsepower you wanted and you'd calibrate it for that, and as you drive it, it makes itself run better, and it would bypass all this crazy stuff. But he's going to try a computer and see what happens. A very interesting car with low mileage like that. It only makes sense that the computer itself is going bad, because they don't do well just sitting. Electronics, even though it's in a heated garage, it's still in the elements, you know, and time goes on, circuits corrode, weird things happen. I'm telling you right now, take pictures while you're doing it. And if you see green corrosion and stuff, hey, send me the pictures and tell me that's what fixed it, because it's the only logical thing. With that fancy computer I have, I'm bypassing the computer on the car. And since everything activated fine then, it's either the computer or the wiring. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Mr. Big White 2 says, what parts are okay to buy aftermarket? Very good question. All right, I got an 03 Toyota Sequoia. I need to replace the CV axles, water pump, timing belt, rack and pinion, lower ball joints, control arms, serpentine belt, and drive shaft. What should I consider to buy aftermarket? What needs to be OEM? Okay, it's a very good question. The CV axles, aftermarket, fine. I've used tons of them. The water pump and the timing belt, I would go OEM, especially the timing belt and the water pump too, because it's so specific. They have to be perfectly made. It has to have good bearings. The Chinese ones have cheap ones. I've seen timing belts that had the wrong amount of teeth that didn't work right. So those definitely OEM. Lower ball joints, control arms, you can get aftermarket ones that are perfectly fine, as you can with the serpentine belt and the drive shaft. So then if you ever do have to change things like mass airflow sensor, oxygen sensors, always go OEM. That's the only thing that really works right. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.